Nigeria is in a race against time to curtail the spread of cholera as we are having 20 fresh cases in 20 states. So, there are a lot of things happening concerning the issue of this cholera outbreak, and we have been saying it here on the program that you need to try your best to be able to take care of yourself so that you do not fall victims to that, and as well to schools to provide washing hand basins for people so they will be able to wash their hands. And then the government has also been encouraged by UNICEF to provide safe drinking water, because this is one of the ways we will be able to contain the spread of cholera. Good morning and welcome to the Dailies. I am Sele Elisha. Remember, you can join us through Facebook and YouTube, and then you can also drop your views, your point of opinion, and then we'll do well to see how we can put hands together to recommend solutions to some of these things happening. I will be doing this program together with Rachel Tansy. Good morning.
Good morning, Sally. I'm fine, and you?
I'm great. Thank you so much, Rachel. All right, we shall go straight into the paper, starting with the Daily Times newspaper.
The big story on the Daily Times: shootings as Fubara directs HLGA to take over 23 councils. Security operatives killed Ijaw youths occupy PHLG complex. You can find details on page 2. Electrical cable stealing, wheel track vandalism, acts of sabotage, statement from President Tinubu. You can start with the details on the front page. Oil block licensing, NUPRC extends deadline for pre-qualification document submission. You can find details inside the paper. U.S. researchers predict Nigeria a failed state in 2030. ANAP seeks immediate constitution of aviation board. Details can be found on page 20. Lagos PDP recommends Bode George for suspension. Evaluating Nigeria's health sector in 25 years. You can find the evaluation on page 21. NAAE flays misleading radar report, says equipment is safe. This is concerning our airspace. You can find details on page 20. And then we have picture story. One saying captured arms from terrorists during dry season operation across the Northeast, theater of operation from January to date. And then also we have another one showing the Chief of Army Staff, General Tori Labaja, commending troops of Joint Task Force Northeast Operation Hadinkai during the Eid el-Kabir celebration for the gains in the fight against insurgency in the Northeast. Photo credit the Nigerian Army. And that's all the news on the Daily Times newspaper.
On Leadership newspaper, Emirates Law Kano Assembly approaches appeal court. More detail found on page 64. Bauchi governor wants Hajj operation decentralized. And what's trending, we have President Islam, the New York Times, over economy reports. And on numbers, Kaduna spent 4 billion naira on school feeding. More stories can be found on page 4. Paucity of funds threatening 200,000 barrel per day modular refinery projects. You can start reading on the front page and continue on page 11. No matter the challenge, I won't turn my back on Nigeria, coming from the President Tinubu. And we have tension in Rivers, which is the big story on the paper. Fubara Council Chairman flex muzzle over tenure expiration. 3 killed as governor summon emergency security council meeting. I won't vacate secretariat. And this is coming from Ikwere local government boss vow. Opposition reps one council chairman charged for treason. More detail can be found on page 10. Nigeria Learning Passport reaches 1 million subscribers, coming from UNICEF. NUPRC extend the 2024 licensing bid registration by 10 days. Federal government not creating new Boko Haram terrorists. APC replies Kwankwaso. Data found on page 11. Entrepreneurs kick over proposed minimum wage. You can find that on page 70. And we have a cross-section of board members and executive of investors company at the recent concluded Heads Holding Group Directors Annual Seminar in Abuja yesterday. And that's all in Leadership newspaper.
On Nigerian Tribune in Rivers, 2 killed as chaos erupts over forceful takeover of councils. The writer says Ijaw youth protest continues, stay in office of LG chairman, destroy Wike's statue. Fubara meets security chiefs, governor directs administrative heads to take charge of LGs. Police take over council secretariat. G60 lawmakers ask governor to file treason suit against 23 ex-council bosses. Details can be found on page 2. We will need change of mindset for Nigeria to make progress. The statement from Tinubu says, no matter how difficult it is, I will not turn my back on Nigeria. Reps to debate bill seeking termination of election petitions at appeal court. Federal government Afreximbank seals $3.5 billion deal for textile industry, CNG vehicles and others. Details can be found on page 6. How Glow added color excitement to 2024 Ojude Oba Carnival. Details can be found on page 4. Nigeria spends $600 million annually on palm oil importation. Gunmen kill Okada Union's officer in Ekiti. Police dislodge secessionist group, arrest 4 suspects in Anambra. Details can be found on page 27. Kwankwaso APC trade wars over Kano Emirate tussle. Details can be found on page 13. NUPRC extends 2024 licensing bid registration by 10 days. Details can be found on page 6, and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
On the Vanguard newspaper, NUPRC adds 17 new blocks to the 2024 oil bid round. How Lagos police rescue kidnapped Funab MD, 4 others in midnight raid. More detail found on page 6. Uniben graduate beaten raped to death in Edo State. And on cholera, some Lagos schools may not resume from break. Coming from the commissioner. You can find more detail of that on page 10. Nigerians not alone in poverty. Atiku LP tackled Tinubu, with the writer saying Tinubu won against rail track vandalism, stealing of electric cables. You are elected to reduce poverty, not amplify it. Coming from the Labour Party. Stop making excuses of inflicting multi-dimensional poverty on Nigerians. Coming from the PDP presidential candidate Atiku. More detail found on page 5. Resident doctors beg for more physicians at General Hospital Ilori. You can find that on page 38. Heads holding Celebrate Impact Convent's annual Director Summit. You can find that as well on page 19. Mayhem in Rivers as Wike Fubara fuel spill to local government headquarters. Chase out ex-council boss, pull down Wike statues and billboards. Godfatherism must end in Rivers. Coming from Edwin Clark. You can find that on page 13. Finally, Nigeria Football Federation accepts Finidi's resignation. You can find that on page 47. That's concerning sports. And we have 2 picture story. One is at the Rivers Security Council meeting, where we can see the governor with other security agency, and then at the Afreximbank meeting. You can also read more detail during the meeting at the Bahamas, and that's all on the Vanguard newspaper.
On Daily Sun newspaper, the big story, Rivers LG's crisis turns bloody. Cop vigilante killed. Governor Fubara talks tough, vows to stand on part of truth at all costs. Angry youths dare police take over council headquarters, destroy Wike's statue. You can find details on page 6. Ex-militant leaders back Tinubu Olu of Warri NNPC on anti-oil theft plan. Details can be found on page 8. We have the Governor Peter Mba interview. We are primed to grow Enugu to be among 3 strongest economies, regain its preeminent position. The writer says outlines outstanding achievements in 1 year, take position on minimum wage, state police and constitution review. Be prepared for unexpected in food safety emergencies, NAFTA tells Nigerians. Soldier kills self in front of military base. Collapsed DMGS building, Anglican Church inaugurates investigative panel. Details can be found on page 5. Again, terrorists kill 6 in Kajuru, Kaduna community. Tinubu governor signing have abandoned us, residents decry. Details can be found on page 5. Nigeria spends $600 million annually on palm oil importation. You can find details on page 2, and that's all the news on Daily Sun newspaper.
On New Telegraph newspaper, World Bank blames Nigeria's power crisis on financial hurdles. Detail found in the paper. Nigeria's oil output rises marginally to 1.46 million barrels per day. You can find that on page 8. NUPRC extended dates for oil block licensing round, and we have police rescue kidnapped Funena brothers in Lagos. Rema Calm Down makes Afrobeat history in US for entertainment lovers. You can check that on page 5. Restrictive market ban of Africa's carrier coming from Welsh. You can find detail of that on page 4 and 8. The big story is on Rivers local government crisis. Fubara rules out tenure extension for council bosses. Meet security agency, where we see warrants against arrests of supporters, gunshot as citizens take over council headquarters. More detail found on page 2. Bandit kills 6, abduct others in the fresh Kaduna attack. And on cholera spread, Health Ministry advisory will determine school resumption date, coming from the Lagos State government. More detail found on page 3. Nigerian pilgrim dies of heat stroke, and we have on hardship, you are elected to reduce poverty, not to mock Nigerians, LP tells Tinubu. And we have here Tinubu urges Nigerians to embrace new value system, says rail track vandals, electric cable thieves are saboteurs. We will tinker with laws on ease of doing business, coming from Apabio, that is the Senate President. You can find that as well on page 3. Kano Emirate crisis. Federal Industrial Court lack jurisdiction on Chief Taisis matters, coming from Falana. You can look into that on page 3. And we have a study that says plant-based diet might reduce prostate cancer progression. So I think this is a report that almost everybody, because it's not only men that get affected with prostate cancer, but also few women have also been, diagnosed with that. So you can look into that story on page 27. We have a picture story on the front page. You can do well to get the paper and read more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On the Guardian newspaper, Rivers in turmoil as Fubara pro-Wike factions battle for LGAs. Details can be found on page 6. Nigerian race against time as fresh cholera outbreak kills 30 in 30 states. Prioritize Mambila power project like Calabar Coastal Road. You can find details of who is making this statement on page 29. Abuja CCTV project, more questions than answers for $460 million contract 14 years after. 300 Nigerian millionaires may migrate in 2024. This is a report that you can find details on page 4. Ocean 2026, APC PDP trade wars over use of diabolical means to win voters' support. NAFDAC says cooked food in fridge beyond 3 days harmful. For Tinubu's economic policies to achieve desired results, you might want to find how on page 12. Kano Emirates Law Assembly leaves proceeding for appeal court. Details can be found on page 4, and that's all the news on the Guardian newspaper.
Richard, I just can't help but look into this issue in Rivers. I think it started way back, and I'm wondering what really is the problem in Rivers State. And yesterday, if you will recall, during the afternoon program, Nigeria Now, we were discussing what the Association of the Local Government Workers or Local Government of Nigeria are talking about concerning having a 4-year tenure for local government officials. I think with that, we give them room for governance, we give them room to interact with the people, and then we give them room to know what to do. And I think with that, the people have ample time to elect the people who actually work for them. And here we're seeing that I think from yesterday was when we saw the issue of youths taking over the headquarters, the fact that the tenure of the chairman have actually elapsed and they do not want to vacate office. And we're seeing already the G60 lawmakers are saying that they should just charge them with treason and all of that. And I'm asking the question, since when did we have chairmen becoming stronger than the governor of a state? Since when did we have chairmen deciding whether or not they want to vacate office? I mean, really, I am seeing here they are trying to fight the governor of the state, and I think something needs to be done about this. I'm expecting to hear what the IGP will actually have to say about that, the Inspector General of the Police, concerning this issue, because it's becoming worrisome, Richard. It started from just a few between the former governor and the present governor, signing of memorandum of understanding, and then we saw that that didn't make headway, and then eventually we were seeing the issue that happened between the speaker and even the people who cross carpet from one party to another. And then what the court is saying last week was what we have been seeing, whether they are actually still the court needs to give vacancy so that they will have an election again for fresh members in the house and all of that. And now we are coming to another issue where some lives have to be taken because certain people do not want. So I really just want to understand, is this another way of the former governor getting back on the present governor, or is this just an internal crisis that is happening in the state? These are questions that Nigerians need answers to, because we were wondering what's happening, because I'm scared, because this is one of our oil producing states, and any little fuel can spread to neighboring states, and before we realize it, it becomes something that cannot be curtailed. So I'm just hoping that something reasonable come out of this, and then whatever is the way forward, if it is for them to be, you know, if the court, if we need to get by the security agency getting involved in all of this, so maybe that will be the way for us to have peace in River State.
I see it as still a feud between two people, that's Wike and Fubara. And what is just happening is just more people joining in the fight. It's not only stopping at the lawmakers of the state, it's now moving down to the local government chairman and all of that. And we are seeing people bringing down Wike's statues and all of that. And it's still just a fight between two people. It's still a power tussle. It's still who is who. As far as I'm concerned, it's more personal than political. It's more godfatherism than government and all of that. And then it's really sad. I mean, Sele, you shouldn't be afraid. As far as I'm concerned, it will come to an end. Either way, it will come to an end. Whatever intervention that will be, there will be one at the end of the day, and then it will come to an end, in my opinion, because it's not a political, it's political. It's not a government issue. This is a problem between two people, and that's what I keep saying, right? That if it was something that could be solved by the books, it could have been solved by the books already. So it tells you it's something off record, it's something no book can solve. It's just two people. It's just two people trying to turn a place upside down. And as far as I'm concerned, there is somebody somewhere out there that can just, tell these two people to hush and bring in some kind of sanity to rivers and all of that, because you can't understand what is happening because of how it keeps metamorphosing, if I may use that word. It just keeps changing and taking form and changing and taking forms, and you cannot understand. It started from the lawmakers at the State House Assembly, and now is down to the local government chairman, and they are not leaving because they are being appointed or were they elected. That's why I keep saying it's a personal, because if they are elected, if their tenure has come to an end, it's simple. It's just another election. But if they were appointed, then that is the problem, because now, okay, they will not want to leave because it is an appointment. They are supposed to resign, or there's supposed to be an election, or FUBARA is supposed to appoint new ones, or whatsoever it is. And that is why I keep saying it, Tele, until we grow to the point where we don't leave certain things to be, whether you want to do it or not, we will remain where we are, or even backward. If we would fight local government autonomy as it's supposed to be, and just as we keep talking about it and putting things in line that it's supposed to be, that by law it must be followed, we won't have these problems in the first place, because there won't be any calling for any chairman to resign or to leave the office. It's just a matter of, well, your 3-year tenure is done, we go for elections and we move past that. And so many other things also that we see put in play. I think it's because nobody wants to really do the work. You know why? Because power is very addictive. Power is addictive and dangerous. Anything addictive is dangerous, because when you are power drunk, when you are just at the peak of being just intoxicated with power and wanting it, you will see things playing like that, because we will keep saying it. Why are we having pro-Wike here and there? You're no longer the governor of that state. You cannot run the affairs of that state. But you see, when there is a show of power, that this is what I want. But why are we not having state laws? Why are we not having constitutions? Why are we not having policies, blueprints, structures put in place that whether you are power drunk or not, it will have to die when you leave that office? Why are we not having things put in place like that? And everybody thinks that political offices is just a chilling point. They go to the Senate, it's a retirement plan for governors. You come, it's more of, we have them going more on recess and actually doing the work. Fewer laws that are not even helping anybody in this country as it is now, are the laws that are being championed and are passed into bills and all of that, moving up to every level. You wonder, okay, what are the lawmakers in states doing in the past? Haven't you had any scare that there could be a problem like this? Hadn't you make any laws at your state level to make sure that certain problems don't repeat? I mean, Sele, what are our politicians doing? What are they doing? Because it looks like nobody has been working. Because if people have been working, some problems will not even arise in the first place. God, for that reason, will not come and mess up a state. It will not even happen in the first place. But here we are, and we ask ourselves, are we really working? Are we just lying to ourselves? Are we deceiving ourselves? It will come to an end eventually, and it's tiring as far as I'm concerned, just seeing whatsoever is going on in Rivers. But one thing I know for sure is that when it comes to money issue, the Wike and Fubara shouldn't be stupid enough to see that that affects the revenue generation or oil production in Rivers State. That is my opinion. So whatever it is, I want to see some level of sensibility coming from them regarding that aspect.
No, Richard, I was expecting a level of maturity, but I'm not seeing it coming. I mean, I think a number of people, Nigerians, have said, you know what, you're not the minister of FCT, and a lot of kudos, applause is coming to you for the various projects, we've been seeing so many routes that you've been trying. I mean, throughout the first week of June, we've been seeing him trying, the president is in one place or the other, trying to inaugurate one route after another. And then you can't help but imagine, I mean, when you're already the minister, if really you are involved, why meddle in another state affair that you are no longer? I mean, at this point, I'm expecting you to be given the blueprint to whoever actually succeeding and saying, you know, this is how I was able to do this is how I was able to do that. I mean, supporting, because if you are the one who nominated him and say, you know what, this is the best person, this is the best candidate to be the governor, why are we having people running around? And this is why, Rachel, I keep raising this concern, the fact that, you see, the problem here is that when you are patriotic to a person, this is what happens. You do what will favor the person, not the state. You don't look at the wider picture. You're just in a box, and then this is all your perspective about how the state is supposed to be. If not, I mean, if it is for the state, you know that, just like you rightly mentioned, if you're being elected, or even if you are being appointed, Richard, and the person who is now running, who calls the shots in the state, say, you know what, your tenure is over, you step down. You step down, because, I mean, you're no longer, Wike cannot leave FCT and come and say, okay, your tenure is over because I appointed you. He can't
do that.
He has handed power, so that is to say you have to take in everything. So just like you said, I know it will come to an end, but I'm just sad the fact that it's, a lot of things are not going as it should. Governance, I mean, we just saw Fubara excited that by February was when he started running governor, but as I'm seeing here, things like this can actually take him backward rather than concentrate concentrating on how to run the state better, you have all these things, meddling in your hands. So I'm just hoping that we see this thing coming to an end. Well, let's take a look at the next paper, which is the Nigerian News Direct. Rivers LG crisis deepens. Bloody as two fear death. Fubara summons security meeting, vows to subdue intimidation. Reps demand treason trial for the ex-local government chairman, accuse them of forceful attempt to retain seats. And we have IPAC backs Fubara commend the HLGA takeover. Focus on FCT duty, avoid Rivers politics, Edwin Clark to Wike. More detail found on page 2. Heirs holding inaugurate Group Directors Annual Summit. NUPRC shift 2024 licensing bid registration deadline. Lagos State Government launches electronic medical record system for patients' data. You are responsible for unleashing poverty on Nigerians. Labour Party Atiku berates Tinubu. And we have PDP APC members clash in LFS scores injured. More detail found on page 21. We have 2 picture stories on the front page of the paper. You can do well to grab the paper and read more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On the Matrix newspaper, oil block licensing, NUPRC extends deadline for pre-qualification document submission. On Euro 2024, Portugal, Turkey winning thrilling encounters against Czech and Georgia. You can find details on page 16. Kano Emirship tussle, APC bombs Concoso, says ex-governor's comments unwarranted and unacceptable. Presidency slams Obi over criticism of plans to acquire new presidential jet. Reduce poverty, not escalated. Labour Party lambasts Tinubu for mocking Nigerians. You can find details on page 1. The big story, Fubara versus LG chairman, Rivers crisis turns ugly. 2 killed as police take over 23 Rivers LG secretariat. Fubara talks tough, vows to protect supporters. Charge ex-LG bosses with treason. Federal lawmakers tell Fubara. You can find details on page 2. Federal government Afrexim Bank seals $3.5 billion deal for textile industry, CNG vehicles, and others. Police rescue kidnapped Foani brothers, others in Lagos. You can find details on page 9. Matriarch of Saraki's family, ex-Senate President Bukola mother dies. You can find details on page 3. On entertainment in Nollywood, box office set to hit 10 billion naira revenue in the first half of 2024, rather in the financial year of 2024. You can find details on page 14. And then we have a picture story towards a healthier Lagos. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu in a group photograph with officials of Lagos State Government and officials of Interswitch at the signing of a concession agreement between the Lagos State Government and Interswitch for the implementation of the Smart Health Information Platform called SHIP. And that's all the news on the Matrix newspaper.
All right, before we move further with other paper review, we would love to take a time out, just let you chew the story. What do you feel about the issue in River State between the governor and the local government chairman that are refusing to willfully resign? And as well, we are having the issue of cholera in 30 states, where already 30 people have already been affected by it. And we're seeing that the Lagos State Government is doing something about creating a digital platforms where they can have data of patients, and I think this will really help. So we would love to hear your own inputs concerning any of the story when we come back from the break. Please stay tuned with us. Welcome back. It's still the dailies. We have been looking at a number of stories on the paper where the president is saying he understands there's poverty in the land, but he eats with Nigerians. And as well, we're seeing the reply coming from the Labour Party, as well as even coming from Atiku, saying the fact that the president really does not understand what's happening. And as well, we are seeing what Lagos State is doing concerning cholera outbreak, and then we're seeing that there is a fresh case in other 30 states as well. So a lot needs to be done to see how this can be stopped from spreading wider than already it has. So I still have Rachel Tanzer with me. Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome, Stella.
All right, we will continue with the paper review, and the next paper is the Daily News Hub, which we will be starting with a big story. Rivers boils as local government crisis turned bloody, sporadic gunshots fired at protesters. Policeman vigilance operative killed in a shootout. Armed youth chase away council chairman from secretariat. Block orders destroy Wike statue after Fubara orders the HORGA to take over local government areas running from the ex-council chairman. Governor convenes emergency security meeting, warns the former LG bosses against returning to offices. Vows anyone attempting to arrest my supporters will confront me directly. You can find more detail in the paper. And on Rivers crisis still, Aisha Yusuf is saying Tinubu will rather deal with Fubara than Wike. You can find why she is saying that. And on Edo 2024, elders chid LP supporters over insult on Benin monarch. You can find detail of that in the paper. 14 states will experience heavy rainfall this week, Nimet predicts, so you can see that story and see which of the states will be affected and what you can do to protect your own house or whatever your plants before flood take them over. And coming from NAFDAC, refrigerating cooked food for more than 3 days is dangerous. So we have to look at how we can be eating fresh food and not keep our food for more than 3 days in the fridge. Marine Police Navy rescue kidnap Funani brothers. You can find that story in the paper. Soldier shot self to death in front of Army Gate. NIDCOM boss confirmed rescue of 2 more girls from Ghana. And the fully set English Premier League 2024-2025 fixture announced. So for those who have been following the league and all of that, you can do to look at the full list in the paper. Charge 23 ex-council chairman for treason, reps G60 tells Fubara. And downside of the paper, we have APC Lambert's Kwankosu on comment over Kanu Emirate crisis. We have the pictures where we can see angry youth trying to bring down the statue of Wike there in the state yesterday, and that's all on Daily News Hub newspaper.
On First News newspaper, Bayero versus Sanusi, High Court National Court lacked jurisdiction in chieftaincy battle, says Falana. Kano won't bow to state of emergency, Kwankosu vows. NAFDAC warns dangerous to refrigerate cooked food for more than 3 days. You will fall like candy in Kate's hand, El Rufai tells Governor Sani, brushes off Kaduna Assembly probe. Fashola urges fair minimum wage adjustment amid economic pressures. The big story, Rivers boils, Governor Fubara's loyal youths out defiant pro-Wike LG bosses from office. Policeman vigilante member killed. End crisis now. Niger Delta Group urges Tinubu focus on Abuja. Let Fubara Rivers be. Clark cautions Wike. Nigeria not the only people facing poverty. A statement from President Tinubu. You're elected to reduce poverty, not mock Nigerians. LP replies. And then we have a picture story showing President Tinubu arriving for Cyril Ramaphosa's inauguration yesterday, and that's all the news on First News newspaper.
On the Punch newspaper, 72 million diversion. Reps panel summon AGIP and NPC order. $72 million diversion. Reps panel summon AGIP and NPC and others. Federal government offers 17 new oil blocks for bidding. revenue generating agency owes the federal government over 3 trillion naira coming from FEC. You can find out on page 29. On Kano, Emirates Senate denies alleged emergency rule. NBA probes lawyers. More detail found on page 18. And still on Rivers State, we have Rivers Crisis Corps killed as youth dislodge pro-Wike local government chairman. Fubara meets security chief, warned against arrest of his supporters. Police take over 23 local government secretariats to forestall violence. You can find detail of that on page 2. Federal government seek UNESCO recognition from Ojude Oba Festival, where we can see the picture. It was so colorful for those who were able to be there, and then for those who were able to see. We are having Governor Abiodun over there and other people who were there during the festival. More detail concerning the festival can be found on page 22. Still on cholera, World Health Organization UNICEF hold emergency meeting. Expert warn coppers. More detail found in the paper. And we have Saraki Abdulrazak trade worth over Ilori Turban attendance. You can find detail of that on page 16. And that's all on the Punch newspaper.
On Daily Independent, federal government announces readjustments criteria for award of oil blocks. Rail track vandalism, theft of electric cables, act of sabotage, a statement from President Tinubu. The big story, Rivers cancels tenure crisis, policeman vigilante die as youth protest return of ex-LG chairman. Pull down Wike statue at Abio Okpor Council headquarters. Fubara asks heads of administration to take charge of LGs. Vows to protect Rivers people, condemns plan to arrest supporters. Plot to retain seat after end of tenure treasonable. This is a statement from Reps. You can find details on page 29. PDP National Legal Advisor denies sabotaging party in Rivers Assembly lawmakers case. APC tackles Kwankwaso over claim federal government is creating new Boko Haram terrorist. Why control flights straight into restricted airspace in Abuja? This is a report from NCAA. Details can be found on page 7. Lagos floats smart health information platform for patients' data management. Details can be found on page 6. Labour Party cautions Tinubu against mocking Nigerians with hardship. No confirmed case of cholera in Abia. This is a report from the state government. You can find details on page 29, and that's all the news on Daily Independent newspaper.
On the Business Times newspaper, federal government summon private jet owners over improper importation and others. Detail found on page 2. NDPC law has enhanced investors' confidence in Nigeria, coming from Olatunji. Detail found on page 6. How to curb rising food inflation by agric expert, where the writer says reason for persistent food inflation multifaceted. And then we have Okwelake urges federal government devise more effective strategies to combat banditry, kidnapping to tackle inflation. Detail found on page 2. Embrace innovation, board remain vigilant of its risks, SEC tells capital market operators. And here we have oil block licensing. NUPRC extend deadline for pre-qualification document submission. IMF urges government to adapt fiscal policy on AI. And then we have establishing Africa Energy Bank will foster energy security across Africa, coming from Lupo Berry. You can find that on page 2. And we still have the president during the inauguration of the president of South Africa. You can do well to grab the paper and read more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On Punch Sport Extra, the big story, Operation Grab Fisayo. Serie A clubs join Dele Bisiru, raise Lazio yet to seal deal. You can find details on page 6. Arsenal ready €100 million Osimhen bid. Ejuke dreams Eagle return. You can find details on page 6. National trials, Ameni Joseph win 400-meter titles. Gilas cost Turner in talks, thrilling win. This is on Euros, where we have Turkey winning against Georgia 3-1. Germany versus Hungary host I last 16 spot. And then we have Mbappe may return for the quarterfinals. Details can be found on page 3. United willing to strike £60 million Tony deal. Details can be found on page 4. Chelsea enter a Morodion race. Details can be found on page 7. And we have Edison gets 38 million per year Saudi offer. You can find details on page 4. Arsenal favorites to sign Onana. Details can be found on page 5. Future star Nwosu, teen star who saved Sunshine season. Federation Cup finals hold June 29. And we have Onwuzurike predicts bright Nigeria athletics future. Details can be found on page 2, and that's all the news on Punch Sports Extra.
Business Day newspaper, oil buyers shift to electric vehicles threaten Nigeria petrodollars. Detail found in the paper. Seasonality, high transport costs responsible for tomato price soared, says experts. So you can look into one of the reasons why we are having the prices of tomatoes high. Is that's a reason of the season as well as high transportation. More detail found on page 30. More naira, less value as inflation erodes 7.6 trillion naira consumer spending. Western multinational fleeing Nigeria are being replaced by Asia and Turkish firm coming from Bloomberg. External reserves seen rising further on inflows, and we also have women celebrating during the festival yesterday how colorful they are looking with their various attires. And that's all on Business Day newspaper.
On Nature News, African MPs urge G7 nations to support climate finance and mitigation. You can start with the details on page 3. Wema Bank offers $10 million facility to Nigeria's largest aluminium recyclers. You can find details on page 5. UNEP study reveals harmful chemical pervades global environment. Details can be found on page 6. World most expensive cow sold for $4 million at auction. The big story, cooked food in refrigerators poisonous after 3 days. A report from the NAFDAC Director General. Details can be found on page 3. Lab scientist blames cholera outbreak on poor wash practices. Kamik urges subsistence farming to cushion food scarcity. Details can be found on page 6. Ugandan women switch to briquettes as cost of charcoal firewood soar. Details can be found on page 19. Amusan wins 4th consecutive national 100-meter hurdles title. Details can be found on page 20, and that's all the news on Nature News newspaper.
All right, let's round it up with Amebo newspaper. Fubara Summer Security Council meeting amid rising tension in Rivers. When we have rotational presidency, no priority now coming from Obidati. There's poverty in the land. I won't turn my back on Nigerians, President Tinubu. Abducted Funani brothers regain freedom. Nigerian government rescued 2 more girls trafficked to Ghana for prostitution. Mohbad's family lawyers question toxicology result, demand new probe. Do you want Tinubu dead? Onanuga tackles will be over comment on proposed aircraft purchase. You can find more detail of that in the paper, and that's all on the paper, and also how far we can go on the program this morning. Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome, Sarah.
Thank you to our viewers, thank you to our supporters, and to the entire production crew. Until we come your way tomorrow, do have a blessed day ahead.